Welcome back, listeners, to the Brighter Side of Blue, the podcast. I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
All right, JJ. Live from the Blue Line Technology Studios. This is a big day for us. I'd like to welcome our listeners from Singapore.
Damn right.
Singapore is on
got
the
the Asia,
map.
baby.
Asia's in.
Come on now.
All continents are covered. We don't have to go over that Argentina or what was it?
Yeah.
All right, we're still going to get somebody there. I got my man that lives in Argentina.
Okay.
He's talking about possibly going skiing.
Okay, well, but
Some
one thing we
part of
know is
Antarctica.
Singapore is 100% in
We
Asia.
got him.
So
Did
we are
you ask that Singapore fan to email us just to say, hey, get a name?
Yeah, we'll do. No, it's not just one, JJ. It's
I believe it
probably-
is a DEA agent, if I'm not mistaken.
That makes sense.
I believe it's thousands, if not
I
millions.
think it's
Right,
just a random
but he's
fan.
spreading the word.
Yeah, he's
He's
spreading
spreading the word. He's,
Yep.
Good.
And the word is spreading fast. Hey, Tommy, what's up with that eyebrow you got going?
I don't know.
It's rogue as hell, and it's
Is it?
driving me crazy.
Yeah,
You haven't found a new hair person?
No.
So
No,
you just
don't
gonna-
plan on it either.
Really?
We've got some viewer mail complaining about Tom's shaggy look.
That's
Did you really?
Yeah, Sam Monty sent it and said, "What's up with
Oh.
Sawyer?"
Well,
What's
today
up,
he's got
Monty?
his left eyebrows going straight up.
Uh-oh.
Lick it.
Uh-oh.
There you go. You got it.
All right.
All right, now there you go. Tame that thing. It was rogue.
All right.
You got to be better than that.
Trim it up.
We're up to
Trim it up.
130,000 views on the 21 Jump Street thing. We're big time. We can't have eyebrows going all over the place.
Don't you know it?
All right, so
How about that?
shape up.
130K.
130. We always said we're gonna have Ron Clyer back. I don't think he'll come back now. He's gonna make us pay him.
He'll go out on his own. He's a social media darling.
He's a social media guru. Jack Milliken, you're in the house.
Yes, sir.
Videographer Jack. This is a good time to give us a social media update.
Yeah, we're looking at around over 200,000 views across all platforms of our shorts and clips that we've been putting out. If you want to find us, you just have to search The Brighter Side of Blue on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. That's all you have to search, and you'll find us, and you'll find where we're at.
200,000 views.
Come on now.
Hey, I got something to go off script a little bit.
Go ahead.
Going back a couple episodes, we talked about the horn etiquette thing.
Wow.
Yeah, the horn.
Well, I had an incident on my way in today.
You did.
Yes. And I'm a polite horn guy. So I go
Hammer.
there when I get to the highway, I gotta go through multiple lights to get here. So I get behind a car. It's a Mustang, nice Mustang. The light turns green. Doesn't go anywhere.
You gave him a little
I
tap.
gave him a little tap. It was
That's a
all
friendly
just
one.
a little friendly tap. So we get going. No harm, no foul. We keep going. We make the next light. Get into the third light. Guess what? We don't make it. So I'm behind him again. And the light turns green. And he's not going anywhere. And I don't even know if it's he or she because the windows are tinted. I'm assuming it's a male. Doesn't move. So what kind of horn do you think I gave him?
A little firmer.
Tap.
I gave him an angry one.
That's
we
not right.
talked about
We
that.
just talked about this, dude. You
I
gotta train
know.
yourself not to do that.
I did the nice one the first time.
Do it the second time.
Yeah,
It would have
just-
worked
yeah,
the same.
Yeah.
Dude,
It would have worked just the same.
John, do you have any? That's bullshit. Because I gave a nice one, and then we were going along, and we missed the next
You
one
violate. Yeah, that's
because of him. If he was on his A game, we would have made all the lights.
JJ, you're the Zen guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
I gotta-
exactly. The Zen
you should-
guy.
All right, I take all that back. It's never happened, but I wasn't like real angry, but it was kind of it was a firm and like, come on, dude. Once it's on me, on you, on me.
The first one worked when you did it politely. Don't you
worked.
think it would have worked the same way? the
Same
second time?
guy.
Oh, come on now.
Come on, you
He might have been messing with you.
We're not
Right.
giving you this one, JJ.
That's what I thought,
I think
John.
you were. I
I
think it
thought-
was a little.
I thought he was gonna be more support on this. I thought you were gonna be like, yeah, angry one.
No.
That's me.
No, I can't
No.
support the anger.
Well,
That could've
there's a
started-
reason that
started,
the-
you got road rage.
There's
Yeah,
a
you
reason
do.
why the car manufacturers don't put a time limit on the horn because some people deserve a tap and some people deserve the full.
Thank you.
The full Monty.
Package.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry I brought that one up, but it make me look bad. But I don't care.
No, you don't look bad. And you took the high road last
first-
week when my phone went off, so
Thanks.
I should take the high road. You know what? Screw that person. You should have honked on it for 5 minutes.
There you go. I agree.
I'm with you on this.
I wasn't like I laid on it and didn't. I just gave him a good, strong horn,
Yeah.
and he moved on. And he's lucky he didn't. Like,
Now, do you give him a
wave me a
stare down
finger.
when you passed him?
no, I didn't get to pass him because I.
Would you have given him the stare down?
Oh, I'd have looked at him for sure.
See,
He didn't get
that's
to
a
pass
that's
him
a
'cause after you
violation. That's
honked,
a
he
horn
fell
etiquette
asleep.
violation too. The stare down after the honk.
Oh no, that you cannot.
You don't be. Don't
Well,
stare
man,
at
hey, you
people
got to
down.
look. Once maybe he's mad at me, and he might be able. His road rage. He
Right,
might be.
just-
That's
So
that's
he-
He
embellishment.
might shoot at me or something. All right, let's move on. I'm sorry I brought this
All
one
right,
up.
sorry, you're right. It's okay. We'll have to explain.
What's the final verdict? A violation, correct? That's a horn etiquette violation.
Definitely a horn etiquette violation.
Mark,
Wait a minute. There's 5 of us here. I think they should vote.
Jack, what's your vote?
Violation.
Damn it, Jack.
That's it.
Producer John?
I'm voting present.
Okay, I'll work on it then, fellas.
Okay, all
I'll
right,
work
hang
on
in
that.
there. Well, you know what? Let's reach out to the Singapore listener and see
I
what
like
they
it.
think. And I
And
don't
we'll
know,
make him the deciding vote.
that is the deciding vote. No
Yep.
matter what she says, the listener in Singapore is going to decide this matter.
I like it.
There's 5.4 million people in Singapore, and we have 1.
That's right. But he speaks
We're
for
not-
all of them.
He speaks for all.
You got to start somewhere.
He's our delegate.
Hey, you know what? Take a deep breath.
Oh,
Take
here
a
it
deep
comes.
breath. Take a
Get the
deep
music.
breath.
Mr. Spicoli.
That's the name they gave me.
I pushed the wrong button again.
Okay. That's why. That's what.
ripping my
That's
car.
why we're
Yeah.
rookies. That was supposed to be the Zen
Bud,
moment.
what's your problem?
Instead, you're Mr.
No problem at
I was
Spicoli.
all.
laughing too hard.
I think you know where the front office is.
You dick!
That's a good way to start.
That's a
Zen.
good way to lead into
Name calling right into the Zen moment.
Now we go into Zen.
Yeah.
Hit the right button.
A Zen moment with JJ. Forget about the name calling that
I
producer John
apologize.
just
Let's get back
cast
in the
upon
Zen
us.
mode.
Yeah, let's give it a
All right, this is I really like this one. It says count your age by your friends, not the years. Count your life by your smiles, not your tears. And that's actually a famous person said that.
Okay.
I like that.
All right, say it again now. Come on.
Count your age by your friends, not your years. Count your life by your smiles, not your tears.
All right. Trying to figure out my age, but I can't figure.
Right.
You got a lot of friends.
You're
A lot of
9.
friends, though.
You want to know who said that? Any guesses? It's a famous person, probably known throughout the world. Younger people may know. I'm guarantee he knows. Jack knows who he is.
Barney Fife.
He's in the 60s. He was really popular. 70s is
Johnny Cash.
no. You ready to tell you?
Yeah, we kind of do.
Right.
We didn't know how
Not
long
gonna
this was
tell
going
you.
to go
No,
on.
we want to
can't-
guess for a half hour.
Yeah, we wouldn't tell guess until
I'm
we
not going to tell you now. John Lennon.
John
All right.
Lennon.
All right.
Well,
Well, I thought it was a good one.
no,
was a
that
good
was really good.
I do like that
I
one.
do like that one.
I really enjoyed that one.
Puts us pretty good off. Lots of friends,
Yeah.
lots of smiles.
Right?
Yeah,
You know,
We're in a good spot.
us and all our peeps out there listening.
100%.
129,000 on the Ron Clyer 21 Jump Street.
I'm telling you, he's got the look. He's got that social media look and that just boisterous, booming voice.
They have good voices. Yeah.
What's the hair and the beard? And Tommy's working on it right now.
Yeah, I got to get the look.
You didn't get the Claire.
At least you got.
I'm gonna
that
go
thing.
Woody.
Oh,
I'm gonna go Woody and just get that beard way down there.
It's easy.
Actually, I do like to trim my beard.
What do we got for us?
Put my
What do
hair.
we got next?
All right, this week we've got Joe Burgoon.
The Godfather of homicide.
The Godfather of Homicide is back for a little sit down, and while you guys were on vacation, just to let everybody know, Danny and Jimmy just got back, and I interviewed Joe last week, and it was just me and producer John that interviewed him about the Ellen Boehm case. And Ellen is currently in jail. She murdered her 2 children, and we'll hear about that a little bit later. But I will say that interviewing him by myself, I missed the chaos. I completely missed the chaos. I was no interruptions, and it was just incredible. And then I was looking at John going, what do I ask next? 'Cause I didn't have any of you guys around to just throw some bullshit in.
Well,
So-
we'll try not to take vacation anymore as long
Exactly.
as long
Cancel
as
'em.
we live. Yeah, we'll hang in there.
We just didn't think the Zoom thing was going to work with both of you guys on Zoom. That show would have been a disaster.
So THC didn't pay off, help out.
What's that?
A little THC didn't help your.
Your interview
Question.
techniques.
I don't know. You tell me.
We'll know when we see it.
Yeah, we'll listen to it. So we followed up. We're following up with the homicide, Godfather of Homicide. Following up Steve Dodge, very powerful show.
That was incredible. But real quick, I want to just tell people what's coming up next week, too, is Nikki Bottolato is going to be on the show. And Nikki is a retired FBI agent that was recently featured in Rolling Stone about an undercover case that undercover work she's done in the area of trafficking children. And she went undercover, and she's got a really neat story. And Nikki works for the Cardinals now as a retired agent, some part-time work. And she works with our with our good buddy Jerry Lashock, who helped us set up the interview, and she's got a very interesting story, and we're looking forward to interviewing her and having her in.
So that's next week. That's next week.
That's next week. Yep.
I have met her.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I worked Stadium, and she was there with Jerry a few times, and he introduced me to her.
Okay.
Okay, good story.
Yeah.
Thanks, JJ.
Just though it's 7 degrees.
7.
7 degrees.
He just had to get that in there. I know her. Yeah, okay.
We're friends. We
Why
go
did
way
you
back.
set up the
We
interview?
go back to last summer.
I didn't think he was going to elaborate. He says, I know.
I know.
I just met her. I didn't know that's who it was when you just
Okay.
mentioned who she worked
Just
at the
hit
Cardinals.
Right. JJ's paying attention to what we're
Yeah,
doing here on
prepping
the show.
before the show.
Right.
Yes.
Hey, what do we got next week?
All right, hang in there.
I didn't get the little card of notes. I had to take my own.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Steve Dodge.
Stop staring at me.
The Steve Dodge Show. What did we miss?
It was pretty powerful stuff.
It was.
Like we were talking before, and we're like, hey, we're going to tone it down this week. Well, a mother killing her 2 children isn't exactly toning it down, but compared to last week's show, it is toning it down. And what a show! The response has been incredible. A lot of wows. It's been incredible. People just are really acknowledging Steve's courage that it took to tell that story. And when we were sitting around after the show, one thing that we forgot, and we talked about how cool it was the funeral procession. And JJ, being in Mobile, was right there in front. He can tell us.
I just think we missed the boat a little bit last week, but I don't think we really told how the city was just in shock over it. It was the first time an officer in a uniform was shot down and killed. I mean, the last one was Greg Urson, and he was undercover and got killed. That was like 20 years ago. So back then, policemen getting shot by bad guys in uniform. Now it's out of control through the country, but then it was a big deal. It was such a big deal. And in St. Louis, we always listen. Everyone's Cardinal fans, and you listen to the Cardinals on the radio if they're playing. So I just remember when this happened, I turned the Cardinal game on in the car, and Jack Buck got on and mentioned he was going to give $5,000 to backstoppers. And he said, my son Joe, who had just been getting in the business, he's going to give $5,000. He just doesn't know it yet. So, I mean, that was on a national Cardinal game. And so the whole city was just, sad, and it was just amazing. But the funeral, and I've never been a part of a funeral like this, it was the largest funeral procession I've ever seen. It went for, how many miles? Miles, I
From the
would say.
cathedral to the resurrection.
And we weaved through the city, and we hit Gravois Road. It's a big road, a lot of lights, and just everybody in businesses came out of their businesses and stopped. People pulled their cars over in intersections. Everyone got out of their car. There was people saluting the people that drove by, the procession that drove by. It was just awe-inspiring. It was just unbelievable. And one of the things that I remember, a friend of ours, Brian McKenna, his brother was a former police officer. He left to go to the brewery and everything. But I grew up with Brian. He was a friend of mine since grade school. As we're pulling into the cemetery, he's standing there with a big sign saying, "Police are our heroes." And I was like, holy cow, that's Brian. I didn't. And he said, so I talked to him. He knew Bob and Michelle from the neighborhood. So for him to do that, standing out in the heat.
I think I recall, too, is you coming down Kings Highway where they have just a line of
Right.
auto dealerships. And the auto dealerships all got together, and they raised their hoods open, and they turned on their lights.
Flashers.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was
Right.
it's just moving stuff, and all the kids that were lined. I think St. Gabriel's might have let their kids out of school
Yeah, they were in the line.
for that, and
Yeah,
it was
amazing.
just
It was unbelievable. And you saw the businesses along the roads all came out of their businesses to watch the procession. It was unbelievable.
And then I also got a call from Jack's father, Scott. It was not to pay his recent invoice.
Videographer
Right.
Jack's father.
It was not to pay his invoice, but it was a cool story. Scott was a classmate of Bob's. They were very tight defensive tactic partners. You know how that goes. And then they both went to the 7th District. And so they were very tight. And when he got that call that day, he ran up to the hospital, and Michelle allowed him into the room, and he said goodbye to Bob. And then he went to, as many of us, depending on how you cope with tragedy, he went to a bar, and he sat down, and he said he ordered a glass of scotch, and it got there, And then out of the blue on the jukebox played Knock, Knock, Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Wow.
So that was cool.
That's really cool.
I think they actually rode together, didn't they, in the 7th for a while?
They
A little
may
bit?
have, yeah.
I think they did. They were partners.
Yeah. So that, and then Scott was saying how special the episode was to him. And
Right.
so it's just cool stuff like that made it all worth it.
And Michelle's text to you and Steve was pretty amazing, too.
Yeah.
It was to Steve, yeah, but yeah.
What was Steve?
Yeah, it was pretty heavy. It needed to be talked about. Steve's a brave guy. He's never talked at that length to anybody about that in public, and then he goes on a podcast and does it. And then, I mean, this week's show is about a mother that kills 2 of her children. I promise our listeners that we are going to get brighter, and we talk about how the law enforcement family gets together and has gotten together on all these tragic things. Tommy, Brighter Side of Blue is going to have some events on the lighter side.
Yeah,
lighter and brighter side.
Exactly.
Of blue.
So what we're planning to do is maybe once every 2 months is having events at different locations for different things. We're going to have some speakers. We're going to do a podcast from the location, and just invite all our listeners out. You know, we talked so often about how the only time we ever get together is either at a fundraiser for something tragic or at a funeral home, and we just want to change that tide and kind of get people together in a more joyous manner for different things and have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's we really and we're going to have our first one in April. It's pretty cool what we're thinking about right now. Don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be here.
Before you know it,
Yep.
it'll be neat to have show the family in a brighter, lighter side.
Right, and we don't want it to just be policemen. We want some of our other listeners to come out that aren't.
No,
policemen.
I'm actually saying right now that I'm going to fly our listener from Singapore in for it.
If he can
Actually,
give-
Denny's going to do it.
Oh yeah, Danny will bring him on the helicopter.
Denny Clyde will get the
Okay,
helicopter.
Danny, if you're listening, get that thing cranked up.
helicopter cranked up.
Head to Singapore, pick up our listener, come back. Oh my God, that'll be good. That I can't wait for those events.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about today's show, the Godfather, Joe Burgoon.
Yep. He just he was, you know, as we know, he'll be coming on every once in a while and doing telling different stories. And one of the things that, just so everybody knows, is one of the reasons we started this whole thing was to memorialize just some of the great police work that goes on throughout everything, or throughout this whole area, I should say, not just the city of St. Louis, but the county and these municipalities. And I know we've started out in the city pretty hard, but we really want to grow this thing to get out other stuff and just memorialize, like I said, and do it in a fun fashion.
Yeah.
I think people realize that we like to have fun and we giggle and we laugh a lot and we make fun of each other. That's part of who we are. But we really want to just memorialize this stuff too and get these great stories on, you know, recorded, have fun doing it, and we're really having a good time. So,
Tommy, producer John was mentioning before the show, you know, being in law enforcement, all of us for decades and decades, that we were put in and in situations that if you weren't in law enforcement, you'd never have that opportunity. And I think you were going to go somewhere with some kind of idea on that, right, John?
Yeah.
Producer John?
I always think it's interesting to ask fellow officers, what is one situation that you were in that was really cool that you probably would have never had a chance to be in that position if you weren't working, you weren't a police officer? Like personally, I was working the debates when Bill Clinton and George Herbert Walker Bush were debating, and the Bush after party was at St. Louis Community College at Forest Park, and that, you know, we all had very specific posts. We had the man, and we were in uniform, and I was like near where the limousine was going to pull up, and President Bush and his wife were going to, you know, get out and go into the event, but it was too far down that I really couldn't see that well, so I just kind of moseyed my way down to right at the end of the hallway where the limousine was letting them out. So I'm just standing there. I just wanted to see the president, and all of a sudden I'm looking at him, and we make eye contact, and he goes right out of the little procession line and he and Barbara walked right up to me, and he said, "Hey, officer, thank you for being here. I appreciate everything you do." And I shook his hand, and I shook the First Lady's hand, which I thought was like a really, really cool event. And two, just how genuine he was about, wanting to express his gratitude to a police officer.
Yep.
On that same note, then I'm going to go to mine, because the coolest thing I've done as a policeman, being in SWAT for all the years that I was in SWAT, and election years, and when the presidents come in, the vice presidents, I've been in multiple motorcades with the Secret Service, taking them out to the airport, onto the tarmac, and those are things you'd never get to do unless you were, a policeman. And so those are pretty cool stuff.
It's pretty crazy.
Danny? You got
well,
anything?
it's along the same lines. I had Colonel Lashock and I had a period of 24 hours where we were in charge of Vice President Dick Cheney after he was no longer the active vice president. And what we didn't know, it was right about this time that the vice presidents no longer receive Secret Service for life. And so
Really?
Colonel Lashock and I were
So they hired you two
bodyguards
from the Secret Service?
What
my
are you doing
buddy-
here?
My buddy, Dick Cheney, was coming in to give a speech for Edward Jones, and so my buddy hired me and Lashock to look out after Vice President Dick Cheney, and it was
You talked like top secret stuff with him?
it was unbelievable what we did. I mean, so we had him in a penthouse, and Colonel Lashock and I had separate rooms on each side of him, so we had the room surrounded, and on each side of him, and we took him down to give his little speech. But the cool thing was, his handlers ordered a limousine for him. He had a 5 p.m. flight, so right in rush hour, and the limousine was coming at 4:15 at Union Station to get him. And so I said, Mr. Vice President, I appreciate them getting you a limo, but you're never going to make your flight leaving Union Station out to Lambert in rush hour. You're just not going to do it. I go, I have a unmarked command car, one of those. What was it? I don't know, Impala. My Impala. Yeah.
Styling.
I said, if you hop in with me and Colonel Lashock, we'll get you there. Cowboy hat and all, he's in the passenger seat. Vice President, just
Really?
basically the Vice President of the United States is in the front seat and next to me, and Lashock's in the back. And we talked the entire time out there. Got caught in a little traffic. I go, Mr. Vice President, you want me to hit the lights and sirens? He says, no, son, I've had enough of that. Just get me there as best you can. So we get there, and Lashock's asking. But I remember one question Lashock asked him that was kind of important today. He said, out of all the world leaders you sat down with and you dealt with the most, and he cut Lashock off. He says, never, ever trusted Vladimir Putin.
Really?
He
No
said he
kidding.
was KGB.
You don't think?
Yeah. And he said, I never trust him. I was in
That's
the room
well
with him
documented.
several times. Yeah. And but he said it to us. And
cool.
and then we get to the airport.
Like he was letting you guys in on a secret?
Well, he said it directly to me. I think you're trying to diminish this for me, and it's my.
I'm not. I'm just
It's
saying.
producer
kinda
John's
obvious.
most memorable moment,
Right.
and you're kind of taking it from
Right.
me.
No, no,
stripping,
no.
That's
you're
pretty
stripping
impressive.
me clean. of it.
Captain Obvious.
Oh,
Putin's a bad guy.
I'm going to power through this. But we got him to the airport, and he had to go into this little special room that we arranged, and 2 TSA agents came in, and they're giving him the whole search thing. They're doing the whole thing, and I'm like, man, do you really? It's a vice president. And Dick Cheney goes, I guess I deserve this. I started the TSA, which is also not a secret. Okay, it's not a secret. I know.
He did say that.
But he's
was
saying it
statement.
to us, and it was
Right.
kind of a,
Right.
Plus, he already shot somebody too.
Yeah, plus he shot somebody hunting, and and thank God Lashock didn't bring
Clear-
that up.
Clear everything.
Yeah,
bird
thank God.
shots.
Yeah. But anyway, to me, it was still special, Tommy.
That's
Hey,
a cool story. You topped us all so far. Tommy, can you top that one?
No,
Damn, that's a
mine
good
would
one.
have been. So I thought it was going to be really cool. The Pope, when the Pope visited.
Yeah, in 1999.
But it was kind of a well, they put the media, or not. I'm not blaming the media, but they put so much emphasis on how difficult it was going to be. They were going to set up triple checkpoints and all different kind of stuff. But I was looking forward to seeing him. It's not too often you get to see the Pope. I think he's one of the most popular men in the world. But hardly anybody, compared to what they were saying was going to show up, hardly anybody showed up. And then I was on Lindell, and the Pope mobile shot by at about 45, 50.
Yeah, it just shot by.
I thought Dennis Clyer was chasing him.
Yeah, I was standing down there. We might have been together, and the girl next to me said, That was a drive-by poping.
Drive-by poping. It was.
But I would say the most. We'll get off his papalness, his holiness.
Yeah.
His papalness.
He just said papalness. Now, we would never let you get away with that.
That's
JJ.
okay, Tom.
Oh, my.
I understood it.
But the one that I would remember the most was Mark McGuire's 60-second home run. Major Zambo was in charge of security downtown or at the ball game, and he had put me behind home plate for that game. And as soon as he hit the home run, we walked out, and I got to stand right behind home plate. Of course, I had to face the crowd because we were there for security. I couldn't gawk at what was going on, but just hearing everything behind me, and the people were going crazy. And, so that would have been mine, I guess.
Can I change mine?
Why?
Because you made me think of something.
Well, he took two.
You're going to go to the David
He took
Freese?
two.
I am.
He dropped
Lay
the
shock.
Pope.
I already talked about this before, but I was on the field when David Freese, because of lay shock, when Freese hit that home run and Game 7. Those are, if I could go back in time for one of my moments as a policeman, it'd be that one. No doubt. That was cool.
Yeah.
All right. Just it.
That's pretty good.
I like that. Oh, quick story. So last weekend I was at the Arkansas-Mizzou hockey game.
Okay.
And ran in, and Joe Cruz, who was on with Steve last week, his boy Kyle is a senior at Arkansas and plays on a hockey team, so I went out there to watch him play. And what was cool, two things were very cool that I thought worth mentioning. One, I got up there, I said hi to everybody, and I see Joe's brother Andy and his wife Karen. And I gave him the head nod and a wave from a distance. And I didn't see their daughter Hannah there, but I sat down, and Andy and Karen come over with Hannah, and they introduced her to me and introduced me as like the guy that's in the podcast
with the eyebrow.
And then we knew, and I knew Hannah from being younger, but I just caught your joke. That interrupted me now.
You got stuck.
But it was neat that she's a big listener, and it made me feel like I was some kind of superstar or something, but I'm not. But we took a picture, and as you guys see, Jack threw that picture up there. Awesome picture.
Great picture.
So that was the first thing. The second one that I want to mention is we were waiting after the game, and we were waiting for Kyle to come out just to say hi to Kyle. It's probably one of the last times we'll see him play. He's a college senior, like I said, he's the captain of the team. And he came out, and we were waiting for him. And then before he got to us, though, he saw these little kids that were traveling with an Arkansas travel team, one of those 11-year-old travel teams. And they were in town watching the hockey game, and they came to watch the college team play. So Kyle saw him, and here's a couple pictures of him. He kneels down with the kids. He's talking to him. He's acting like he's interested, or he's not acting. He is interested in talking to him. And it was good. And then Kyle said, "Hold on," and he went into the locker room. And he didn't come out with sticks because those things are like $275, and they got to pay for their own. But he got some broken sticks. Yeah. And he came out, and he was signing them for the kids, and he gave them to the kids. But what was really cool is afterwards, these kids were running over to their mother, and they were so excited. That's cool. And that's a cool story that I thought was just a couple things I saw that are cool.
What I noticed about it is Kyle did not get his father's head of hair.
Which is a good thing. Right?
Yeah, oh yeah. He's got a flowing lock of hair.
He's got some hair now.
Yeah, he does. Hockey hair.
That's a pretty good story.
And Kyle's playoffs are starting, so good luck to Kyle and the Ice Hogs.
And they're coming to St. Louis, so we're going to get to watch it.
The Ice Hogs will be back
one more time.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Yep.
All right. Producer John, anything?
I got one more thing real quick. I know we're going on and on, but I just want to give a shout out to Craig Robertson, who got shot on the 8th, I think, walking out of a club, a private club with him, Lieutenant Boyer, and retired Sergeant Cliff Summers. And they heard somebody breaking in their cars. They went to the back door. Craig was first. They automatically got pelted with fire.
Right when Craig came out
the door, they got ambushed. I just got the phone before we started with Craig, and I didn't know. I knew he lost part of his ear, but it actually went in his cheek, came out the other side.
Jesus, lucky.
Took out a chunk of his earlobe. Got one across the back that made a gash in his back. The other two were fine, but and then Scott Boyer, I heard, said this is the first time in his whole career that he felt like a victim for the first time because they couldn't do anything because they were getting shot at, and they couldn't get out the door because they
Right.
were getting shot at. And finally, when the time the shots fired stopped, they got out there and they were gone. But great police work by the city, Intel. I don't want to give credit to everybody, and the federal marshals helped out and caught all four of the
How old were they?
13 and 14.
Unbelievable. Well, yeah, good. Our
But he's
our
doing
prayers
good.
are with Craig and
Yeah,
all those guys, because that anytime you're involved in an incident like that,
He was so lucky. I mean, so lucky.
we talked about it last week, and how those incidents can affect you, and obviously all of our thoughts are with those guys and getting through this, and Craig, he's going to be fine, just so everybody
Yes.
knows. He's as far as physically,
Yeah, mentally he's going to have to deal with that. So
right.
Producer John, what were you about to say?
Just a little brighter side of blue business. People have been asking about Huggy. Jack was just giving a title, recently, and Huggy's never had a title. Huggy is he's kind of a shadowy character, but
Absolutely.
but to justify having him on the payroll, I had to give him a title. So Huggy is now our event coordinator and also click pimp.
He's
Click
a
pimp.
click pimp.
Yeah, I
Huggy
like
the
it.
click pimp.
We need clicks.
We need clicks, so help Huggy out in his
he's
job.
also an advisor
An
He's
advisor.
definitely an advisor.
because he really I won't say he advised on the Clyer one pretty heavy.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
So anyway,
And Huggy's our without Huggy it doesn't go forward. He's the one that convinced us that we could do this thing.
No,
Uh,
I mean, producer John has been cracking the whip on all these titles.
Right,
and
and
he,
he's in,
he
he's
let
in
us
charge.
know pretty quickly that
He's in charge.
he's our boss.
Well, ain't no doubt about it.
No, and I accept it.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Yeah.
From a law enforcement perspective, is Bigfoot a cold case or a missing person?
don't care.
The Godfather of homicide, Joe Burgoon.
Let's do
Great
it.
man.
Peace.
Out.
Peace.
Hit it, Huggy.
All right, here we are with Joe Burgoon, the Godfather. Another sit down with the Godfather. As everybody will notice, that Danny and JJ are not here, which helps everything. We've sent them to couples counseling, so get their relationship right. We are here with producer John. Say hello, producer John.
Hello there.
And then Joe Burgoon. Say hello,
Hello there.
Joe. So one of the things when we brought Joe on the last time, and he talked about stuff that we wanted to talk about, which is the national murder. A lot of people were, that's a big St. Louis case, and we talked about a murder near the Francis Park, which a lot of our people are from the South Side, so they wanted to hear about that. But one of the cases that Joe wanted to talk about, as we talked about after the show, and we've talked to him since, is the case of Ellen Bame. And Ellen killed, or has been convicted of killing 2 of her children. And that case was pretty special to you, Joe. You were very involved in that case. And tell us a little bit about that case.
Well, it started off. We notified by Sergeant Dan Duffy. He was in the gambling section at the time. He got a call from some person. He didn't want to name who it was, about some lady that had 2 children die within a year, and they were young. There was a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, 2 boys, and so we thought we'll get involved in it. So went over to the medical examiner's office and talked to Dr. Mike Graham, and he was aware of them. And he said, yeah, and we're running tests now and everything. And it turned out, the more we investigated, the first boy, David, he was 2 years old. He died in November of '88, November 24th. And his brother, Stephen, died the same day a year later.
Which one was the 2-year-old?
That was David.
Okay, that was the second
The
one.
other boy was Stephen.
Okay.
And what the mother said, we went to talk to her, that she took the one little boy was on the couch, and she was in the kitchen, and she came in to check on him, and he wasn't breathing. So she ran down the hall. There was a medical student. She lived at the high-rise apartment at 4720 South Broadway. It was more of a senior citizen place. Anyway, she ran down to get the medical student, and he came down there. He called 911. That he went down there and he started trying to do mouth to mouth and CPR, and they got there and he was pronounced, So, and then like I say, a year later, same a day to the day. She's running down the hall. She goes first. She went to another neighbor, then she went to his. And said, "My boy, it happened again." He goes in there, and there's a baby on the couch. Said he was watching. Didn't go to school over the weekend. He supposedly got some shots, polio and measles and diphtheria, and then he supposedly got sick or had a reaction. That's what they thought it might have been, but she went to her mother used to watch her. She was divorced. Her mother used to watch the kids while she went to work, and she went over and told her that you don't have to watch them. I'll be home,
That particular day.
Not that particular day. And so they stopped and they got a taco, got on a taco and a soda, and they came home and he was watching Sesame Street. And then she said she heard him laughing, and next thing you know, she went in the living room and he was on the couch and he was blue. So that's when she ran down the hall,
Was there any indications of, because I read an article in preparation that they thought the first one was SIDS. They blamed the first one on SIDS. Correct?
Every guess, and they didn't know. Cardinal Glennon and then also Children's Hospital, they were both involved in it.
Right, because SIDS is usually when they go to sleep in their, in their crib, not when they're 4 years old and watching Sesame Street.
Yeah.
It's tough to say that's SIDS.
So it just, the more we got to talking to her and everything, and let the doctor know, and they're running all kind of tests, and it's going to take time. And she had a little girl, Jennifer. Jennifer was 7, and supposedly she was taking a bath one time, not too long before that, and supposedly the little boy, Stephen, he supposedly threw a hairdryer in the bathtub. But she unplugged it right away. But her mother took her to the hospital to make sure, she was okay.
The mother unplugged it, or the
child?
The child
girl
unplugged
did. Jennifer did. Yeah, and so you don't know what you got for the time being. You can't rush it. You got to wait and see what the doctor says. And
but you can definitely see where Dan Duffy's informant was on the money, or
it was on the
up
money,
to
and they were talking to different people, and we found out that she worked for Arthur Anderson, accounting firm. She was a computer operator, and they took a collection up for both the first child, $1,200 they gave her, and then she had a policy, and then she went to the funeral home and had that all set up, And then she went to one funeral home, and then we found out later on she didn't pay the funeral bill for that one, And then
so she had financial gain after
she had
the first
a lot
child
of problems. She was married to a guy. His name was Paul Boehm. Paul was married before. He had a wife and 2 kids, and he drove a bus, Metro bus. And that's how he met Ellen. And then so he left his wife and got with Ellen. And they get divorced, and then that's when they had the 3 children. He was a veteran, been in the Army. So they applied for a GI loan on a house over on Wyoming, real close to Roosevelt High School. Well, then later on, after he's got 3 kids, he winds up quits his job, and he leaves Ellen, and meets this other lady, and they had a couple kids, but she lost it. She had a lot of debt. They had foreclosed on her house, a lot of things, and then she was working, and she worked part-time. She was delivering pizzas, trying to get ahead. And
so when that first child dies, she gains
a little bit,
financially.
not a lot of money, not a
But
lot of money.
enough
later
to-
on, we find out she took out some policies on the daughter, Jennifer, and then the other boy, and some on herself.
after the first death.
Yeah, and turned out it was about $90,000, but these insurance companies are kind of had some doubts. You know, we were calling it. Well, we put together Chief Hackett put together. We had a special investigative homicide team. We had a nickname for it. I'll tell you when we're off the air. But
Special homicide investigation team. I think we can all
yeah,
figure out what the
SH for short.
exactly. All right.
So we're waiting. It's just a lot of patience with the doctors. They don't know it. You can't just run in there and they were looking at one heart problem, and they thought it might have been a heart problem. They give her and the daughter. They give her the tests, and everything was negative. They were able to run some other tests on the boys, and they couldn't find nothing there. Just as it kept
So
going
since
on.
these were, again, I guess we'll call them suspicious deaths.
That's what it is.
So
Suspicious
are
death.
you, as a homicide in your homicide team, but the special homicide team, are you guys treating it as a homicide almost at this point?
At that, we're just gathering information for now.
But it's fishy enough that you guys are
Yeah,
really
we
digging.
had Tom Weiber was on it, Daryl
Okay.
Cordia, Walt Wagner, and Rocky Jones, Rochelle Jones. It was five of us all together. You know.
So you guys are kind of talking amongst each
Yeah,
other, thinking
yeah,
there's something
and
wrong
they were
here.
kind of when we first had the first meeting, and a couple of people were concerned about, you know, we better do something about that little girl.
Right.
So they went down there and talked to her, and just said, we're watching this real close, and
Right,
nothing
because
better
her life
happened to
is-
that little
right.
girl, you know. And so she got, you know, she was told, you know,
Okay.
but there was a lot of some of her associates or friends, some people from work. She didn't have much of a life, you know, as far as with the children.
Now, when do you ever interview the husband?
Eventually,
Okay.
years later,
So you're waiting. Okay.
he was in Arizona,
So he's out of state at the time.
out of state. yeah.
Okay. But I was wondering what he might say about her as far as what she came.
Well, you know, you just keep what he tells you. You got to take that
Right.
with a grain of salt too.
Well-
you know, with his track record,
right. We'll get back to now. So now you're waiting for the doctors.
doctors, it takes
they're
a
doing
long
their
time.
Investigate. While they're doing that, you guys are interviewing people.
We're
When do
interviewing
you-
a lot of
When do
people.
you finally get the information from the doctors that this is
I
probably
was.
homicide?
This is a lengthy ongoing. You know, it was almost 2 years.
Wow.
That's how long we worked on it. You know, somewhere in the investigation later on, we called up at the behavioral science unit in Quantico, the FBI, and I talked to an agent up there and explained what we had. He says, "We've never had nothing like this before. This is the first one. So send us what you got." So we put a packet together and sent it all together up there. And eventually they came to St. Louis. As Jim Wright was his name, Jim, and a young new agent in there named Steve Etter. And they went over everything. They gave us some suggestions what to do when the time came, you know.
So they were
What
pretty convinced.
Well, what we could do. And so that's what we were doing. One of the things he said to set up our big room and move a lot of cabinets there. It's like we got a big task force going, and we got all this stuff going, and everything was done already. You didn't have to.
Right. It was,
And we took tables and we put empty soda cans on it. We had ashtrays full of cigarette butts.
this was like
whole bit
the war room. Of
Yeah,
this
the
case.
war room. Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah.
You know, and so it went along. You know, it just took time. And finally, Dr. Graham said, I'm going to a conference in California. I'm going to meet with some doctors. And he said that they're all experts on child deaths. You know, because he's very cautious. He wants to be right, you know. And there was the one doctor. He was from Columbia, University of Missouri, Dr. Dix. He was a medical examiner up there. Well, he's deceased now, but there was 5 doctors that looked at these. I got the names here.
I don't know them.
No, okay, yeah, but they were good. They were good, But they told us what to do, and so he said, best time. She bought a car. She bought a car bought a Lumina from Dan Brown, new car, and I could cost her $15,000. They gave her some discounts. It was about $11,000. She wanted to get a red one. She couldn't get a red one, so they sold her a blue one.
That was it.
Yeah,
Having a different color car is always good for marketing.
Yeah, and she did move out of those apartments.
Okay.
She rented a place in.
But both the deaths happened in the same apartments.
Yeah, both of them in the same apartment.
She's now moved. It's 2 years later.
Yeah.
And where did she move to?
5100 block of South Broadway.
Okay.
It was a two-family flat. She lived upstairs. Nice building,
Now, in the 2 years, how often did you ever go back and talk to her just to let her know that
they'd go off and on. They'd go. Other guys would go. Daryl and Daryl was in child abuse. And then Rocky and Walt Wagner. Everybody went back.
Just let her know you're still around.
Yeah, let her know you're still around. We haven't forgotten.
And checking on the daughter, right? That was part of your plan too, is to make sure.
And what we did with those, I mentioned this the team, our team, and then we had the lady in the lab, Nell Redmond, and there's Bill Swires. He was a former officer, And what we did was we got all her records, all her bank records and everything, and we had it all what she spent, on this and that. And they made big charts up. So when they were as big as those things, just about. And so when we had them all set up, when she walked in there, she's looking at all this.
So when you finally brought her in,
got her in there, she's looking at all this. Man, these guys really have been working,
So when you finally bring her in, have the doctors and what's the doctor's name again?
Dr. Michael Graham.
Michael Graham. Did Dr. Graham tell you guys that this is a homicide? Or
oh yeah, he finally ruled it. We went to the grand jury and we got her indicted.
Hey Joe, the times you did interact with Ellen, what was her demeanor like? Was she cooperative?
She was very cooperative, and it took about once we got her, they told us to get her when she gets off of work. So we're waiting at 12th and Clark. Figure she's got to drive by to come by us. And we start following her, and we lost her in the traffic for a little bit. And Captain Bauman, Bob Bauman was there. He was there. He was there. I said, if we don't get her, we're going to be in trouble. Because he had a place at Innsbruck, and he'd go down there on the weekends. But he didn't go this weekend. He was going to stay here for that. So, but we got her. And then we got to come to the office, and then she had Jennifer with her. So we got some officer to take care of her, And we started talking to her. And first she, denied it and everything else. And the more she looked at, we started explaining this to her. How do you explain this? And then finally she said, I did it.
Wow.
And then basically what she did, and that's what he couldn't figure what happened, but she took a cushion. She must have weighed 300 pounds. And she got this cushion, put them on the floor, because there's concrete floors, and put that cushion on top of it and then laid on top of it. And then they couldn't breathe, and compression, and it wouldn't show, And did it with the other one, and then she still had the couch. She said she bought a new couch. She didn't buy a new couch.
Of the cushions she used?
Yeah.
So she kept that. She kept the cushions in the couch.
Kept the couch, And
That's
then
disturbing.
finally, when they got through the preliminary and they're getting ready for trial and everything, we had her indicted already. And Shirley Rogers, she was an assistant circuit attorney. And then she says, well, you have two choices. He said, it's either the death penalty or it's life without parole. She took life without parole.
And then pled?
Yeah, she pled.
And then what did the daughter, the surviving daughter, what happened to her?
That poor thing. Well, they brought her. They had a hearing now at the juvenile court, and the father of the year showed up. You
From
know,
Arizona?
and they may have roasted him. Oh, he got blasted, but he didn't get custody. And he went down to Florida. He finally got some kind of a pension. Supposedly that he had Agent Orange, but that poor soul wound up in custody of juvenile family services. And she called one time, and I think she was down around Farmington or somewhere. But she was in a group home, like, and there was a book written about this case called "Sleep My Child Forever." Is the name of the book, and she read the book, and she said, "I want to thank you for saving my life."
She called you?
Yeah, she called. Yeah,
That is awesome.
yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah, and later when Jim Wright retired at the FBI, I got invited to his retirement. We went up to Quantico, and I gave a little talk to the behavioral science people. I just mentioned about her calling. I says, you know, your job is finding killers, and here you saved a life. You know, but what all you recommended we do, and we did. You know, so it was.
That is neat.
And
And I think that's one of the things too, Joe, over the years, listening to some of your interviews, and is that you do stay close with a lot of the victims' families, for one reason or another. One of the things, and producer John and I were talking, is that obviously that helps the victim's family. Does it help you too?
Yeah, it does. You don't forget about them.
Right.
You know, you don't forget about people, and you touch a lot. You don't know how many lives you touch. You know, but
Right.
you don't do it for you. It's for them.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
But then some you get closer to than others.
Oh,
obviously,
absolutely.
over the
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
just
like-
like in your story with the National Food Store,
Yeah,
with your
Harold,
relationship with
Elmira.
Harold.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you telling us the story off the air of the Pantazzo market.
Yeah, Kathy Pantasso.
You
Yeah.
stayed in touch with her for quite a while, didn't you?
What happened in that case, Joe?
She was a school teacher. She taught at the Bryan Hill School. You know, 5th district. All of a sudden, it comes to the 5th district. But her mom and the mother had a little store on Compton and Arsenal, on a northwest corner. And when Kathy would get off at work at school, she'd come to the store, and her mom would go home because she had young brothers and sisters, and Mom would fix the dinner, and Kathy would stay there, and then she'd do her homework, grading papers and everything. And they had a neighbor came in there. He used to always be a security guard, and he always wore his uniform. And then the mother would call, and she couldn't. Nobody answers. So eventually, she went down to the store, and she goes in, and she finds the guard on the floor, and Kathy shot 3 times in the head. You know, and they rushed her to the hospital, and she survived it. You know, but she was from the injuries from the brain and everything.
Paralyzed?
Yeah, not paralyzed, but she could walk. You know, but she
Right.
And she was 22 years old when it happened to her. You know, and
you stayed in touch with her over the
yeah,
years?
when I was in the bureau, they lived on Hartford.
Okay.
And I used to go over and see them, you know, and I told Bill McClellan about her. I said, you know, there's a story about a mom and dad. They were immigrants. Her father he owned a bar on South Spring, and his wife had that store, and they're raising their kids. And she called me, and Bill wrote a story about him, you know. Well, she calls me up, Mrs. Pantazzo, I want you to come over. I want you to bring Mr. McClellan over here. I said, yeah, I'll get hold of him. And I said, no, don't you fix nothing. We don't want it. So we get over there. Bill, I met Bill. We go over there, She's got a dining room table, all china, the whole bit, you know. And you want beer? You want a drink?
So she put a spread out for you, huh?
Yeah, she had, and then so then Kathy came down and she had a temper thing, you know. She just, you know, they fly off the handle, you know, and that. But the mom, she fixed a big dinner for us, you know, big lunch for us.
That's neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
In that incident where the shooting took place, that it wasn't even a robbery, was it?
Yeah. And what had happened? We didn't know what was missing. That's the trouble, you know. A couple blocks away, they found some canned goods. So Norm Jacobsmeyer gets a call a couple days later. It was lost, you know, in a way. And the guy says he was calling from Atlanta, Georgia. He said, "Did you have a policeman killed up in St. Louis in the last couple of days?" And Jake says, "No, we had a security guard." He said, "Well, we got two guys down here in a stolen car, and the one guy is saying that his stepfather's the one that killed the guy and shot this other lady." So then we have to go down to Atlanta. So Phil, I'm the rookie. I've only been there less than a year, and Phil Dwyer and myself, and there was a gentleman. He was a circuit attorney at the time, assistant Paul Allred. So we flew down there and we interviewed him, you know, and talking to it was his stepson. His stepson was the one. Joe was his name. He told us what happened. He wasn't with him, but he just got out of the penitentiary in Atlanta, came up here, and he weren't living that far away from the store. And he was down the street in a bar drinking. And he decides he needs, you know, doesn't have any money. So he goes in there and they I don't know how much they got. It wasn't that much, you know. And then from there they left and they all went to Atlanta. And they were down there. And they got caught. So we went down there and talked to both of them. Then we had to go then he told us he sold a gun at a truck stop, you know. And so we started going. We had a Roy Baker. He was a detective at the sheriff's department. And we drove all the way to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, stopping at truck stops trying to find out if anybody saw it, you know. And we never did
Stopped
find
at every truck stop?
all the way up there, you know.
That's thorough.
Good old-fashioned police work.
But years later, we get a call from Colorado. They recovered the gun. It was an NCIC.
Really?
And they mailed it to the lab here. And Frank
That was the
Stubis.
guy already convicted?
Yeah, he gave him life without parole. Oh, he got it life. He gave him life.
Now, was the victim still alive? Or?
Yeah, last I heard, her mom's died and her dad died.
Okay.
And last I heard, she was at a nursing home out in Eureka.
Yeah, she had a tough time getting around, correct?
Yeah.
On her own?
Yeah. Her mother got dementia.
Okay.
So they were together out there, you know. But
the other case I wanted to touch on a little bit was the Cassidy Center case.
Okay.
Cassidy came up missing in North County.
Yeah.
And her body ended up being found in an alley in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And it was right around the time of the Angie Hausman
They were
murder.
both missing. But
So tell us a little bit about the Cassidy Center. I know that Angie Hausman wasn't exactly yours, but you had something to do with Cassidy Center.
Yes. It was the day my brother retired from the police department. We were up there. He had a little ceremony, and then we would come out of there, and we know that we were told they found the body of the little girl, Cassidy Center, up off of Dr. King and Prairie. So then we went up there, you know, and they had her. She was found in an alley. She's wrapped up in a sheet, and we had it all roped off and everything. And all the major case squad was there. My friend from Quantico, he came in.
Oh.
He was there.
For the same guy from the Ellen Bain case.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know, so we're working on it, and they have a meeting, and they decide it's because it's found in the city. We're gonna assist the county. So myself and Chris Pappas and Joe Nickerson, we went out to the county. We were in the police academy in the county. That's where the command post was set up. You know, and you had the FBI there, and you had the state police, Missouri Highway Patrol, and mostly it was a county thing. They at that time they started a deal where they were phasing detectives out after you've been in their bureau 5-6 years, back in uniform.
God forbid have experienced people in jobs.
So they had to bring all the ex-detectives back. You know, they had to work on this, and they worked on it. It was a couple months.
How long was she missing before they found her body?
It wasn't that long because she wasn't that bad, you know.
Then I believe they do an analysis of the blanket,
They did that in her clothes.
and then
Her
they
jeans, she had a
found
pair of
orange
jeans.
and white chips on the blanket.
Yeah, they did.
And then I believe it was Bobby Bays maybe and his partner.
What
They
happened?
found a U-Haul truck that might have been rented.
Well, what happened was when we were there, the FBI was doing plaster casts on the tire tracks. They sent them away to the lab in Washington, and they were doing the stuff you got to do, and you know they were canvassing and everything, and following up on leads, and what happened there, that when they finally came back, we'd have a meeting twice a day on the squad. Everybody was there about, and they find out that the brother, this little, he used to work at a McDonald's restaurant on Lindbergh, in Hazelwood, and right across the street was a truck stop. They rented trucks, and the guy says, Bob says, I know right where that place is. You know, so they sent him up there. He knows those guys, whatever it was. And they were bringing a lab team in. They were flying a lab team in from Washington. And they were going to do the investigation on the scientific stuff. And they took they just took they had a tow truck and they towed that thing to I think the county at their lab.
The particular one he rented.
Yeah, they because they were on the way there. They put an officer there until they got there and they could get it out of there. You know?
Now you said there was the little brother, the brother of the suspect, worked at the McDonald's across the street.
No, Thomas Little did.
Okay, Thomas Brooks.
And he quit.
What did
Yeah,
his name was Thomas Brooks, right?
Thomas Brooks.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you know his father had Thomas's father had a auto repair shop up the street on Dr. King. He had 22 kids.
22?
Yeah. All he did was work besides working.
Yeah. A couple different kinds of work.
Yeah, right.
He could field a full offense and a full defense with 22 kids.
Do you remember where Thomas fit in? As a 22, was he like?
I never did ask him. He went to prison when he was 17. That tells you something.
Right.
And he wasn't a big guy. He was a little guy.
The father or Thomas?
Thomas.
Okay.
And the dad wasn't a big man either, you know. But so we were trying to figure out where those chips came from on the red paint, you know. What had happened? We went back out there. No. We did a second time. We went out in February. We kept telling them we need to go back in the neighborhood. We went out there, Chris and Joe, and we're standing out in front of the house, and people are driving by, and they keep looking at us and looking at us. They knew who we were, you know. And as I come back, and we told the sergeant that it's his case. He said, "You need to go back out there," you know. And they
That's a neighbor there.
put it off, you know, put it off. But finally, in February, decided to go back out there. This is from November. Yeah, so we go back out there, and we all come back and have a meeting, you know. And the guys, all of a sudden, you hear about what happened was his sister had a boyfriend who was in the county jail, and he's there watching TV, and he sees the police out there. She says, "What's the police doing out there?" He said, Thomas killed a little girl. She's in the basement. He says, he's got I'm getting out. When I come over here, he's gonna get rid of her. So what they did, he told him, you gotta get him out of here, get her out of here. They wouldn't. That's when he rented the truck, came back, and he had to use a dolly to get her up the steps. The paint chips come off the dolly.
Okay.
That's their red paint chips, you know. And then they said,
So she was in the house
In the
while
house,
while the initial investigation's
Yeah.
going on.
I think he was. Yeah, he just claimed that she got scared. You know, he used to play with. She used to play with his sister's kids. I figured she might have stopped there. They weren't there. You know, but I think he was gonna sexually assault her, more than likely. You know, and then he beat her with a bed slap.
So the sister knew that the baby was in the house,
Yeah.
and she was living there at the time.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
he
disturbing.
went to prison.
No, good for
He got
them.
some time, and so did the boyfriend. Just got out.
Just got out of
Yeah.
who was watching it on television.
Yeah, he went. He followed him. He followed him in the truck. He backed out with the truck, and knocked the mailbox over.
So he gets out of jail and goes right into a murder case.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah, yeah,
Nothing like a little rehab.
yeah. Well, Thomas.
That works.
Thomas is another one. He died in prison.
Thomas died in prison.
Yeah,
I think he died of AIDS. I think I saw.
He did.
I've heard or.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, one of the questions I always like to ask is of everybody is who on the police department, as you were coming through, who were those people that you kind of followed and looked
Yeah.
up to as mentors
Yeah.
and friends, because sometimes your friends can be your mentors.
Sure. Yeah. There was a lot of partners you had. I was a mobile reserve. You're a rookie. You know, and you got guys that show you what to do, what not to do. So you be careful out
What
there.
not to do is sometimes more important than what to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then when I left, I was there 8.5 years, and you just start teaching the younger guys too. You know, don't do this, don't do that. I went to homicide. It's a different world. You miss the action because you're slowing down because you've got to do everything the right way. But Norman Jacobsmeyer was lieutenant at the time, and he was a detective in homicide. He was a sergeant in homicide. He was a lieutenant in homicide, and he was a captain there. He never left, and unfortunately he got sick and passed away. Phil Dwyer was a veteran. He was in homicide 25 years. Ella Gates, Tom Bowe.
Hilltop, right?
Hilltop.
Ellen Gates.
Yeah.
For those listeners that don't know,
Hey,
Hilltop
Mother.
is a bar that several policemen hung out in on occasionally.
Yeah. Hey, mother. Hey, mother, my mother.
Exactly.
Just a lot of guys. And when I went back after 27 years in homicide, I went back in the district, you know, and I'm like a rookie.
Right.
So I just kind of had Lenny Bober was a good guy to work with. Lenny was a sergeant up. He kind of took me under his wing for a little while.
Oh, that might. I don't know how you survive that.
Got your.
I was under Lenny's wing for a hot minute in the Central
Yeah.
Patrol.
Yeah. No, but he was a good guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And then, so just like the Norm Jacobsmeyer, I know Steve was his child or was his kid, right?
It was his nephew.
His nephew.
Yeah.
And Steve was a homicide guy. So
Yeah.
that whole family was maybe,
And his dad was assistant chief.
right.
Yeah.
So that those were kind of your mentors,
Yeah.
you know, coming up.
You try
That's
to,
neat.
and you tried to. When I left homicide, I went to the 9th District, and Major Zambo was in charge, and he wanted me to start some classes out there. You know, and we did crime scenes and that. I went to look for the crime scene. So we did the whole. I did all. I either did a night 6 to 2, or when I worked 6 to 2 as the overlay. We do a couple classes a night. A day watch, we do maybe 10 to 2 or something, 10 to 12.
It's a great idea.
They got credit. Post credit.
Post credit.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great idea.
Then we went to South Patrol.
Major Zambo was no dummy. That was a good idea.
Yeah, and he retired then. Though.
Yeah.
We were going to do a couple of other ones about police shootings and stuff like that.
Right.
You know?
It is important to know exactly what to do when you show up first.
Yeah.
Because you can screw up a lot of stuff if you show up and don't know what you're doing.
You got to do it right the first time. You don't get a second time.
Well, and then if you do something wrong when you're the first guy there, it's just something somebody's got to clean up. Like
absolutely.
Or somebody else has got to just say, hey, they made a little mistake when you're in court.
But it was, it was a good experience. So the whole career was good. You learned it.
And how many years I know this was on the previous show. How many years did you do with the city?
43.
43. And then how many years did you do with the cold case out in the county? 17. So 60 years of chasing, being the voice of victims, I should say.
Yeah.
Which was probably your specialty over the years. And they say homicide, and you did a lot of homicides, but you also did missing children, cold cases, just so much stuff that was
some things
involved in it.
It's just the silliest thing. We were working a murder in O'Fallon Park, and there was a guys, and they were going around, and there were lovers' lanes up there, and they'd get the guy out of the car, and the guy make them take off their clothes. So this one guy says he ain't taking off his clothes. Well, they shot him. Well, his lady was with, she stripped down to her bra and panties, and she ran from O'Fallon Park all the way down to Broadway. You know where the gas station is down there? They could call the police, and eventually we caught him. There was a couple guys. I guess they were after guys too, but they got two guys, and they beat them up, and they took them down the county. Then they came back and they dumped a car up in the 5th District again.
There we go.
Up at Randall in an alley in the garage. So we're in there. I was with Ron Skaggs, and we're in there. She's got a little child, and 2 or 3, and we're talking to him and everything else. And I see, you like gum? I had a pack of Trident. I give him a piece of gum. And his mother said it was okay. And then she tells us who put the car back there. And they got him. We had a wanted out for him, but they robbed a 7-Eleven on Pine Street right there.
17th and Pine.
They jumped. They caught him. And the girl that ran, she was able to identify the one guy, but she couldn't get the other guy.
Piece of gum, huh?
Piece of gum.
That's how you solve cases every once in a while. Every once in a while, it takes a piece of gum, right? That's awesome. That's awesome. You got anything else, Producer John?
No, the one question I wanted to ask is, when you're putting an investigation together, what's the most important thing as far as, is it the crime scene investigation? Is it the interrogation of witnesses and suspects, or is it like?
I think start from the start. It's going to be the crime scene investigation. What kind of nowadays, that's what they want. The juries want. They don't want your testimony. They want that too, but they want the whole bit.
Okay.
And you start with the evidence, and that's the main thing. We had a case, one guy, and he lost it. He got a confession from a guy, and the guy was kind of slow. But it was a couple months later, and the guy was experienced. He was a sergeant, a good interviewer. But he'd interrupt him or he'd be talking, But forget about the evidence. Just go with the confession, And the guy went to prison for a while, and they got him out,
Just because
he died, and the family sued, and they got a big chunk of money too.
Yeah, I know that evidence nowadays is
they want
much more than the testimony of police officers
is
weighed. The evidence is weighed a lot more.
Yeah, if you got a black eye or something, your credibility ain't too good.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope. But once again, we appreciate you coming by, Joe.
Well,
I'm sure we'll see you again. And one of the things we just want to do with this podcast, Joe, and I think you've heard me say it before, is just memorialize all the great police work that's been done over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And so people can just look back one day and see all the great policemen and people that went through.
they think all the officers they're all crooked and blah blah blah. They don't realize. You know these people, how they are. They're good, honest people.
Absolutely. 99.9% of policemen are out there.
And the ones that aren't, they're going to get caught.
And we want them to get caught,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We don't want, that's not what we want. But,
Uh-uh.
and again, we're going to have you back on probably
Okay.
at one of the events we're going to have. We're going to have some events where we're going to have all of our guests come by.
The choir
One of the
boys.
things that happens now, and I'm sure you've seen it, is that every time we all get together, it's usually at a funeral home.
Oh yeah.
And we want to try to break that and have some fun events surrounding about police work and some good stuff that's going on throughout the area. It's not just the city police department.
That's the city and the county.
And all
They're
the
all good.
municipalities, they're just out there.
Yeah.
They're out there doing great stuff.
I can say that Jim Rakita, he's retired. He was a detective. He worked his way to be the chief of Belleville. Then he was working there. And he had boxes full of stuff on this guy, Gregory.
On who?
On the Bowman, right?
Okay.
Bowman, yeah. And he kept all that all those years, and they used it at his trial too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is good. And then that's this kind of stuff we want to do, and we appreciate you being so cordial to us over the beginning of this podcast and help us get this thing kicked off.
I felt sorry for, in a way, you look back on like Ellen Bohm. I mean, she lost her house, husband, and if he left her, she had stuck with all the bills and everything, and then she winds up now she's in there for life. Just sad. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins in these things, when crime's involved, right?
I don't know. I talked to her one time, and she was in Arizona. She said her husband got killed in an automobile accident. She's got a couple kids, and she's got a new fiance.
Who, Ellen does?
No, Deborah, Jennifer.
Jennifer. Oh,
Yeah,
Jennifer,
yeah,
the kid.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much did Ellen get in total for all
She
that?
got life without parole.
No, how much money did she get from the insurance policy?
They held up. They held up. They wouldn't pay it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first one was for donations from work.
Yeah, she got a little bit. She got a little bit to get the car. She had what power.
Okay.
But all the rest, she almost $100,000 out. But she was so broke, she had payroll reductions, and she had to pay so much to park,
Right.
all that other stuff, and putting everything on her. And I'll tell you when we're off the air, some other thing.
That's what everybody says to us. We'll talk off the air. That could be the most common statement.
Brighter
the
Side of Blue
podcast.
off the air.
Brighter Side of Blue is signing off. Thanks again, Joe.
You're welcome.